are creatives on both sides of the Atlantic adapting to AI's impact. Today, we're talking to filmmaker Matt Szymanowski, who's just back from California with fresh insights on what's working, what's not, and how creatives and folks in tech are adapting to this major shift that AI means into our industry. So, Matt, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, man?
Hi, it's so good to be here, Juan. Thank you so much for having me.
The first question I need to ask you is, you were recently in California touring with the European California Club, exploring the AI revolution and connecting with creatives, people in tech. So how did the idea behind this journey come together, and what were the most surprising things you found during this trip?
Yeah, I'm an American from Silicon Valley, and I live in Poland, where my parents are from. And being here for the last 3 years, I have been very curious about the AI revolution, and I've been, since November last year is when I feel like I was late to the game even, but I started prompting and I started getting into it. And so, and also it's just, I started talking to all my friends and collaborators and specifically this ad agency that I often work with called John Weston Group. So my buddy who runs the whole ad agency there, or in my city, Wrocław, he and I just said, let's go to California and let's basically go back to my my old stomping grounds, and let's talk to as many people as we can and shoot a documentary about what's happening from the on the ground perspective. Obviously, because a lot of the tools are coming from there. Still like Mid-Journey, OpenAI with ChatGPT and DALL-E, and it's like Silicon Valley is still, a leader in the space and really just all technology. And so, but also I lived in LA and I was a filmmaker, and I went through the whole, traditional kind of hustle of just pitching and trying to get projects greenlit and meetings with producers and agents and managers. And I went through all that. With mild success. Like sometimes things were great, most of the times things weren't. But with this goal, with this mission to understand this thing, we shot 37 interviews. We met like a ton of people. I reconnected with old friends. I met a whole bunch of new friends, and I mean, I was just so inspired by the insights by the whole trip. And the coolest thing my one takeaway I'll just mention right now, and then, we can kind of dive deeper. It's this sense of community, sense of kind of curiosity, specifically in LA and the LA AI film movement, where there's a couple like leading figures we can also talk about. But I was super inspired by that. And, it's like the technology is one side, but then it's interesting that a human element is really at the center of this. And the idea of like connecting with people thanks to AI. So this is like, we were talking about this before, like I feel like I'm on a mission to just connect with these folks who are on the cutting edge, who are building communities. Because in the next few years, like, we are going to be leading the pack. We're going to be leading this movement. And essentially, we already are, on the front of it, on the front lines. So, again, just to kind of sum it up, it's like a very exciting trip. This documentary that we did, it's called A Human Future. We are now in post-production just before picture lock. We hope to premiere it in the next few weeks. In California, in LA, Silicon Valley, as well as in Europe, and yeah, so it's this mission is ongoing.
It seems you're just getting started, Matt. And I want to sum up for a minute, right? Because you brought up so many things that I want to discuss. For example, like the community in LA, which is something that has been a very surprising thing about AI, because LA gets such a bad reputation sometimes. About being a very selfish city in a way, and when you jump into the AI community, it's completely the opposite here. Everybody has this like sense of wonder, in which is like we're all like honestly, I just feel like when you were kids and someone in your block either had the newest console or like bought a new football ball, so it's like everybody's kind of like, oh, let me see, what you got in there. So I definitely want to go on that into the documentary, but I want to sum out for a second and talk about the European California Club and the mission behind it, right? From what I understand, you're trying to build it, like you were saying, right? Building this bridge between the European creative community and what's happening in California. So what's going on?
Sure. Yeah. So basically with John Weston Group and Rafael, my buddy who runs that ad agency, and my company, Pluto Studios, we essentially created a club. It's becoming a separate entity called the European California Club. So very on the nose. And the idea is to create a bridge between California companies, creatives, founders, working in AI, working in entertainment, as well as tech, and connect them with companies in Poland, but also in Europe, and create this bridge. So one thing that I noticed in Poland, my experience is mostly with Poland because I'm not exactly sure what's happening outside. But I think in general, you can say like Europe is it's not as innovative. I mean, there's more regulation. There's more like red tape. Just the European government is kind of slowing things down in terms of innovation, where the US is much more open. And because of this, it's like the sense of community that I found in LA. It's very cutting edge. A lot of ideas, collaborations, incubators, even production companies that are totally embracing AI. I see that happening in California a lot more than here. And the ultimate idea was to eventually begin collaborating with individuals and companies, and then ultimately to bring, once we figure out, we're like in the process of various conversations to get funding, sponsorships, EU money, to basically bring leaders in the AI space, in cinema, but not only in AI cinema, and bring them as speakers to Poland to be on panels, talking about their perspectives, from, again, this like epicenter of this AI revolution that's happening. So that's the ultimate goal, is to create these collaborations. And already I'm starting to work on a few projects with folks in California. So it's very exciting. And also because I'm a Californian at heart, and I also love it in Poland. I feel like, there's a lot to do in a way. And in Poland, my mission feels maybe greater, where I do have the insight from California. So now I want to personally make that bridge as well, and work with more people in California while I'm here. So that's hopefully a good sum up with what we're doing. Yeah.
And I think I can relate to what you say, being someone that wasn't born in the U.S. This is my elected home now for 8 years, right? But I do have that context, like you're saying, which many times here, things, I wouldn't call them easy at all, but you have more access to things, right? You might get it or not, but it's out there, versus maybe if you go to Poland, you go to Argentina, you go to other places, things might take a little bit more effort, which doesn't mean there's not a lot of innovation, and creative folks actually think it boosts creativity when you have more limitations, because folks need to get really resourceful to do things that maybe here in LA, they're more accessible again, right? But yesterday, casually, Apple was releasing their new iPhone, right? And they talk about iOS. And one of the conversations going on online was the difference between iOS here in the US, or everywhere but Europe, actually, how the European version, it's a lot more limited because of all the limitations and regulations. And again, I don't know enough to comment on that. But the question I have for you is, do you really find that amount of regulation is having a noticeable negative effect on the ability to do things in Poland, in your case?
Mm-hmm. It's like there is a community that is growing here that is like, a few weeks ago, I was at an AI summer party with it was a very casual, essentially like a networking mixer. Mm-hmm. And so there are people working on the cutting edge, and there's even an LLM created by Poland called Bielik, which it's essentially is ChatGPT, but a Polish company, doing it in a very, focusing on the language, the nuances of the language, which ChatGPT doesn't necessarily get. So it's like there is cool stuff happening. But, from my perspective, in terms of entertainment, content creation, advertising, marketing, it's like there have been a couple commercials made in Poland. One of the commercials was mine, essentially a branded content piece. But now you're seeing this happening all over the world, and it's slower in Poland. So it's like that limit. There are many reasons for the limit. There is the regulations. It's like everybody's reading the same articles, you know what I mean? Like we're all getting the same, we're talking about the same things at the same time, because like the, iPhone message or this promo comes out, everybody knows about it. But somehow there is something about like California. And again, I'm biased because I'm from there, but it's like Silicon Valley. It's, the origins of the gold rush. The like innovation is built into the whole freaking state. You know what I mean? It's like the renegades, it's like something about this American expansion, manifest destiny, the Wild West, reaching the border, the Golden State, finding opportunity, creating opportunity. The same reason why parents went there, in the 80s is because of like the computer boom, right? Like Apple, Hewlett Packard. It's like my father wanted to go there. So it's just something in the ethos and the like whole idea of the place that breeds this innovation. Obviously, there's innovation everywhere. There's little pockets. There's like Silicon Beach and SoCal. There's also the Silicon it's now the name escapes me. Silicon Dragon and like Kraków, which is a city in Poland. Mm-hmm. It's like they call that the Silicon Valley of Poland. Mm-hmm. So there's these pockets, but still. It's a mindset that pushes forward faster, harder, because of the culture and everything. And that is the thing that I would like to try to bottle, and bring back. So all the conversations I'm having are kind of coming from that perspective. And, it's like slowly but surely things are happening. And just yesterday, for instance, I was at a press junket for this art exhibit, Art Intel. I mean, and this gal, Anna, who put this together with a whole bunch of people. There's a Magda, and they put this event together, an art exhibit, which is innovation, creativity, and technology. And there was a lot of AI artists there, which was so exciting because it's like, oh, wow, this is my place. I feel at home here. But the press that came, the biggest TV stations, TVP, actually, maybe TVP wasn't there, TVN, Polsat, which are two major TV stations in Poland, the journalists didn't know what's happening. Like they don't, like we were talking about, maybe it's such a bubble, but mainstream media hasn't exactly caught on. And just now they're starting to. So it's interesting how it's just things are a little slower here. But it's also here. It's my goal is to kind of try to speed things up with my company, with European California Club, with John Weston Group. We're like, we're going to release this film also about AI, and hopefully bring an awareness about the potential, the future, what to be scared of, but also what not to be scared of, because we got to embrace the future. So again, it's like I feel like I'm kind of rambling now with just this kind of energy. But again, it's like the future is coming fast and we need to be ready for it. So it's become part of my mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love, again, the things might be going on slowly, but it just takes one person that is delusional enough to think they can change things for things to change, right? Because like, if you think about it, especially, here in California, definitely, if you were not insane, you wouldn't move here. It takes a very specific type of person to look at this state and be like, okay, I can tackle on this. That's where I need to be, right? And that's one of the exciting things about living here. Now, talking about this film, right, the documentary A Human Future, which was a key part of your tour through California, what were the most meaningful takeaways from directing it and how they're influencing your approach now that you have gone through the experience and had some time to digest it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just reconnecting with like old friends, making new friends, finding out how people are seeing this whole thing. Again, it's like on one level, you can just read that. You don't even have to leave your home to get a sense of what's going on, right? Like there's just the internet's got everything you need in terms of information. But the real, the whole film itself is called A Human Future, because we wanted, and also we wanted to be with humans. And even on a technical approach, we didn't do anything except shoot just video portraits of people's heads, kind of like we are now, right? It's like just talking. And again, even we could have shot the whole thing essentially with like laptops and computer cameras. But the goal was to be with everybody, and we didn't even give a prep for any. A lot of folks were asking like, "Okay, I'll be in your documentary, but what do I? How can I prepare for it? What are some questions that you're going to ask?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to give you them. It's just about you and your perceptions, and it's very simple questions. There's no wrong answer." And we gave a very just 3 simple questions with a couple little follow-up questions for everybody, the same questions. And the idea was just to see the different perspective that everybody has with the pretext of AI. So this is the I'll just drill a little bit deeper on this point. Like AI is just a pretext. It's a symbol, right? AI means so many things to so many different people. And everybody fills this symbol with themselves. They fill it with their fears, their anxieties, their hopes, their dreams. And that was all very carefully, we planned this in a way. And it's just an opportunity or an excuse for people to allow themselves to shine. And in that way, we see various perspectives of humanity. And it's and I think California is, eclectic enough where it can speak to people globally, right? It's like you have folks that are terrified of the robots coming and really just taking everything over. And who knows, maybe that's actually going to happen, right? It's like Skynet, like the machines might take over at some point. You already, I'm seeing all these videos of robots that you'll be able to, $16,000, you'll be able to buy a robot that can fold your laundry and feed your cat. It's like, wow, this is literally the future. And what if those robots suddenly take over? On another sense, it's like, well, maybe we will fuse, like Neuralink and Elon Musk's whole thing. But also it's like we might, or the idea of the singularity, Kurzweil, it's like we will come to a point where we fuse together. And there was a couple folks that kind of touched on this idea in the documentary, where we will fuse together and there will be a human element to this inorganic, man-made thing, which is an AI robots, and it'll be the next evolution of humanity. So it's like, we went into philosophical places, we went into scary dystopian places, and we went into all kinds of places with this documentary. But again, the goal was to shine a light on humanity and how people are seeing the future and seeing life. So that was the idea that, we wanted to get at. And I think it works. Like we were supposed to get a 12 to 15 minute documentary. It's 25 minutes. But it's 25 minutes that goes by very quick because you're all the people are very, passionate with their opinions. So yeah, that was the idea of the documentary.
And I watched the trailer a couple of days ago, and I love it that it starts with one guy. I think he was from Apple, and he's like, AGI. It's bullshit.
AGI, we're going to get there. We're going to have AGI. It'll be as smart as you or me. Hype.
Yeah.
What I'm coming from, it's like you have so much. And one of the things, again, it's funny that you mentioned all of this about the humanity, because one of the reasons I started this podcast is a love letter to human creativity with AI as a stage prop. That's how I refer to this podcast because I like technology. Obviously, I'm dedicated all this time to this, but I like humans a lot better. Might be biased, might be because of my personal interest, but I like humans a lot better than I like technology. And when I hear this, I find it refreshing when people can say, I'm passionate about this. I see a lot of opportunity here. I also see things that are bullshit, or I also see people that are just lying through their teeth. Because Matt, I'm sure you've noticed that the more you learn, the more you can see who's actually being realistic and who's just like, taking advantage of what we say, right? We're in an environment where you and we can talk about against generative AI, whatever, and we'll more than likely be able to have this conversation and be aware of what we're talking about. But we talk to a normal person that is not doing this for a living, and they're not going to be like, we have this, I think, perception that everybody knows as much about what's going on, and that's not the case. So there's a lot of people that I see here drifting on that, and that they give a really bad name to the community. So when I see folks like you that are coming and doing something because they want to empower others rather than making them feel like they're missing out to sell them something, I like that because, again, I like humans. So I like empowering people and sharing knowledge, and I see this is what you're doing.
So the first person in the trailer, it was Daniel Kotke, which is employee number 1 from Apple. And he was just a joy to speak with because he's a total visionary, and it's, there's a controversy about, the beginnings of Apple and kind of what was happening with him in the end, but he's got so much insight. So he was kind of like a star and in the whole process. But also it's, yes, I hear what you're saying about there's the real human element that weirdly this technology kind of allows people to open up to, and like, it's like I said, the gatekeepers aren't yet in place in terms of the AI kind of revolution. Like, you can contact a lot of people working in AI with like enthusiasm and kind of just positivity, and they respond. And so after the documentary, after we came back to Poland, like my research has continued, and I'm like, oh shoot, I wish that you would have been in the documentary. But so I'm like reaching out to all kinds of cool people that are working on new systems, new platforms for distribution, for ways to market, like working with AI influencers. But also I noticed, so the flip side of that is, like you said, there are it's funny, I saw this video, a little bit of a viral video. It's what a lot of people are adding. They're adding AI to everything. And there is somebody making some sandwich or some kind of taco, and they're packing the taco, and every single layer was covered with some kind of like mayonnaise. It's like such a stupid video. So it's like the bottom plate was covered with mayonnaise. You put the taco on, you cover it, like you squirt on some mayonnaise. You pack the taco, you squirt on mayonnaise. You put napkins and like forks, you squirt on mayonnaise, and you wrap it up in a bag, you squirt on mayonnaise, and the mayonnaise is AI. And this is what a lot of like companies and people are doing, just squirting on the mayonnaise, the AI, not really knowing what it's about, not really utilizing it, but just like throwing it in. And yes, there's a lot of companies that are like using the word AI to ride this wave, to sound more sophisticated. And it's like, but I think you can find out pretty quickly who's, kind of doesn't know what they're talking about, but they're just using AI. There's like schemers and shysters and shady folks who are everywhere in the world, and AI is not an exception. And you come up against those people sometimes too. But fortunately for this process that we went through for with the EuroCali Club, the folks I've been connected to, I honestly can't say I've had and this is crazy, I've had many negative experiences in the film industry, and meeting people that just like, they just kind of like are holier than thou, and there's an ego and there's a dismissiveness, and it's like, and those are the gatekeepers that, that just like they are obstacles. And I think a lot of old industries and old systems, they create this hierarchy and bureaucracy, which isn't helpful for innovation. It's not helpful for creativity. And then, when something new comes up, it's like fertile ground. And so now we're in this place, AI cinema. It's like wide open. Like we're creating the systems, we're creating the relationships. So again, it's an exciting time. And, I'm fortunate. Like we met because of this fury of energy and LinkedIn, and thanks to Jagger, who was, on your podcast. And that's another story, because she may be traveling to Europe and to Poland. So I don't know. We don't need to get too much into that, but it's like she for a residency, and she's exploring creativity, and it's like all these connections are coming together, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Both Kate Cook and Jagger, who are featured on your documentary, were here on the show.
Yes,
and it's
right, Kate
pretty
Cook.
crazy because you see a lot of people getting involved here. I mean, I can attest myself the difference this podcast has made in my life, but like how things have been changing. Like I spoke to Jagger on the podcast, I think 3 months ago, and it seems like we spoke a lifetime ago. And I keep running into her in events here from the AI community, and it's just nice to see him do so well. Both her, Kate Cook, and a bunch of other people. You just see on the up curve. And I'm sure like a couple of years from now, I told her, I know she's going to be making huge waves, because also she's a delightful person to be around. So, that's always very good. Now, Matt, we're kind of getting to the close. I do want to touch on another thing, which is the AI hybrid cinema, right? So I want to just touch a little bit on that, because I know that beyond the documentary, you might be skimming something with this AI hybrid cinema. Is there anything you could share with the class? Or
Yeah. So, also part of part of what my company is doing, Pluto Studios, is working in this new AI cinema space, making commercials, making films, also connecting AI filmmakers and designers and storytellers with brands in Poland, but also in Europe. And so essentially we're like managing a few clients. Although again, it's all about people and relationships. So like right now, for instance, I'm working with Verena Pum, who is an Austrian living in LA, who is part of this AI. Like she's and it's crazy the connections, they get smaller, and the world gets smaller, and you see how everything is connected because she knows Jagger and as well, and ultimately, so we're working on 2 projects that are hybrid. One of them is a short film, which is live action, probably 60% live action, and then the rest is AI generated. So that's a short that we're doing. It's a Polish language film called The Envelope, and we have a couple cool actors that are in that. And that was a very hasty effort put together in a DIY sort of way, but now it's turning into this, really cool opportunity because a lot of interesting folks are getting involved. And we, we're very excited about that project. The other project, which is another labor of love, is a feature film called Captive Mind, which, so it's interesting because we shot it way before, like 3 years ago now. So before, LLMs really kind of caught wind and ChatGPT was launched, way before the AI cinema revolution. And so in the process of editing that film, and it's a sci-fi about a dystopian future led by an AI government. So it's almost like the film was written and then the reality is just following quickly. But a lot of the VFX shots that we had planned, so now we are considering, and not just considering, we're already starting to prompt AI shots that will obviously animate. So it's a very unique, again, it's a unique, exciting moment that has kind of synergistically, spontaneously come together, where we're now just before finishing a hybrid live action. Most of it is actual actors. Carlos Prats is in it. He's amazing. Maya Taylor from Tangerine is in it as well. Mm-hmm. She plays the dystopian president. of this world, which is also a puppet. So it's so all these cool things, cool elements, and on top of it, it's going to have this AI layer, which is super exciting and super new. So I think the future of cinema will be very much like this, right? It's like, I'm fortunate to have one of the early films that's going to be this way, but I think in the next few years, we're going to see a whole bunch of this. And that's exciting. So again, it's like new systems, new workflows. We're just now figuring all this stuff out. But like we're in it, like we're on the front lines. So that's super exciting.
And Matt, what do we tell those creatives that want to join you in the front lines, right? Those creatives that are like you when you were just getting started, but feel overwhelmed because there's this feeling of the train's gone, like the ship has sailed, I'm late, it's over. What do we tell that people? How can you give them like a little roadmap, let's say 3 little things they can do today so they start getting involved when implementing AI to boost their creativity, right? Not to replace it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to, it's like with anything, you just have to dive in all the way and dive in. And it's like, you got to just follow the leaders in terms of, there's a lot of blogs out. Obviously, Curious Refuge is a big player in this whole thing. In AI, there's Todd Terrazas and AI LA. There's like moving things forward by highlighting people that are, exciting leaders. And Matt Wolf obviously is another one. So by following a few folks, and I have learned so much. And it started off with me just following a few folks, and then I started reaching out to a few folks, and then I made a documentary, recently, and that opened up a lot of doors. And so I think but again, it's the information and data that you're collecting, which leads you to the people that are also collecting that same information about this AI revolution. And then those relationships are the relationships that can help you to move forward in this space and carve out a name, your own name in the space. So that's the long version. The short version is just like dive in and meet people and, but it has to be exciting. And that excitement it's an organic thing. You can't fake the excitement, the excitement just has to be in you. So I think some people are just naturally excited to innovation, to newness, to new things. And that's how I have been motivated in this whole process. And I'm also open to hearing from others. So people reach out to me, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Yeah, please, by all means, reach out. Yeah,
we'll have all the links in the show notes. And actually, Matt, for folks that want to learn more about your work, but also about A Human Future, where can they find it?
So A Human Future, we're going to start off with a few private screenings in Warsaw, in Los Angeles, and San Francisco. That will be, we'll be announcing those things on social media. So my ECC Euro Cali Club is how you can follow us on Instagram. It's Euro_Cali_club. And also follow me, MATTSZY. That's my handle for all social media, for Instagram, for Twitter, also for LinkedIn. In that way, you can see what's happening, follow along, and slowly but surely we'll be making some more announcements. And I can't wait. Eventually, we will show it online as well. But first, we want to kind of build a little buzz among these small communities of people, and then sky's the limit. I can't wait to show this far and wide online, and we'll see. We'll do the traditional approach as well, cinemas and festivals. So I hope it'll hit an LA festival as well as something in Northern California.
Yeah,
so again, yeah, you're invited. Of course, you have to be there.
I will be there. I will be there.
Yes. Yes, you will.
So, Matt, thank you so much. I do hope to see you in California soon. First round of coffee is on me. And
Cool.
the rest
I'll
of
get
you.
the second.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Maybe a pastry too. But for the rest of you, thank you for once again joining me in Creativity Robots. I do hope to see you again next week for another episode. And Matt, once again, thank you so much for joining. It's been a very lovely conversation, and I'm very excited about following up on your work and what you folks do next.
Thank you so much, Juan. And thanks to the audience. Reach out anytime.
Amo la creación en mi pantalla, bits y bytes en danza, todo brilla, cada código que escribo canta. Sabor a cumbia.